The first thing you need to know to study well and get better grades in physics and math is to think about study blocks. Now, many students try and sit down when it's time to study, and what they do is what I call pseudo studying, fake studying, half studying, part studying. A study session might look like this. They sit down at 7 p.m. and they work until 10 or 11, 3 or 4 hours. But during that time, they've got a few things going on. They've got some math homework and some math notes and some physics homework and some physics notes. And when they start working on one and they get frustrated, they go to the other one. And then they also have their phone there and they're messaging their friends, and sometimes they're looking at some videos. And it's multitasking and it's distracted. And really what happens is focus, you should think about as like diving deep down. And every time you do one thing, you kind of go down and come back up, down and come back up. And you never achieve that focus. Focus is the ability to work on one difficult task for a concentrated period of time. Most students in high school can only really focus well in a topic for about 40 minutes or 50 minutes. So you should organize your blocks around bouts of focus, blocks of focus. So you should say to yourself, I'm going to do 45 minutes of focused physics work and sit down and do a block of work. And that's how you should do your work. After 45 minutes, your brain's going to get a bit tired, you're going to lose focus, and you should take a break. I advocate for a timer. That is, you use a timer. People like different amounts. Do some experiments, 35, 40, 45, 50, 55 minutes. If you get something like 80 minutes, you're the longest focused person in high school possible, basically, but probably you're actually not focusing for that whole time and you're not using your time effectively. One focus block of 45 minutes, you can achieve more than pseudo focus for 3 hours or 4 hours. And this way you can organize your time to do your work, homework or study for physics, and do the other things that you want to do. You just do them focusedly and in separate periods of time. What you should do in a block of time, here's how to use one 45-minute block of focus time for physics. You start by preparing. Actually, the first thing you do, you start your timer, and then you get what you need. Paper, pen, calculator, questions, maybe your iPad to write on instead of paper. That might take the first 3 or 5 minutes of your focus time. That's part of the time. And then you've got about 40 minutes. And in that time, you'll do maybe a homework and you'll have 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 questions. Depend on how hard the questions are. If they're easy, you might get 7. If they're difficult, you might get 1 or 2 done. But that is what is required for a focus. At the end of that time, your timer might go off. Maybe you'll spend 2 or 3 minutes marking that work. And maybe you'll spend 2 or 3 minutes tidying everything up. If you want to then take a break, you take 5 or 10 minutes break, put a timer on for that too. Now, if you want to have a second bout of focus work, okay, 45 minutes, break, another bout. If you're done physics for the day, then at that point you would tidy the work at the end and then have your 5-minute break time. Focus has a feeling to it. The feeling of narrowing your focus, your mind coming down. There are actually neural pathways, ways that your brain is learning to understand. When you're doing difficult physics or other subjects like math or chemistry, you want to be doing questions that are at the edge of learning. That is to say, questions that are in your ability to do, but they're not easy. Things that are just where you're learning. If you're doing questions that are too hard, you can't do them. If you're doing questions that are not hard enough, they're too easy, then you're not really needing to focus that much. You just want to do those questions exactly where you're learning and spend that focus time trying to do those questions. If you organize about of 45 minutes, then you'll find yourself studying really effectively and really well. You'll get better grades, and you actually need to study less if you study effectively.